Hello, I'm Charles Kovess, Australasia's passion provocateur. Welcome to this week's episode of the Charles Kovess Show, whether you're watching on Rumble or on YouTube or listening via one of the many podcast platforms. I will discuss 2 or 3 current or global challenging issues in our lives and then explore how the self-awareness and passion principles can be used to elegantly and effectively handle such issues. I will also share some resources that will be helpful in handling those issues, and those resources will vary in their nature from week to week. The show notes give you links to the foundational principles of this show and details about my background, and secondly, links to our websites charleskovess.com and kovess.com, where you can find details of my books, my passion programs, my team building programs, my leadership programs, and a bunch of free resources that will be of value in your life. These details also include the Self-Awareness and Passion Quest, a one-on-one executive coaching program that can change your life. So let's go with this week's big impact issue. This issue is imagination. If you're a frequent visitor to this show, you know that I talk of human freedom. I talk of freedom. I'm a freedom warrior. It is freedom that makes us human. I've done a number of shows on that topic. Without freedom, you are not much different to an animal. However, imagination is a unique human quality. It is also what makes us human, and no one has imagination like a human being. Robots don't have imagination. Artificial intelligence does not have imagination. Because you have imagination and I have imagination, robots will never entirely outdo human beings. Robots will never outdo human beings in certain key areas of life. What is imagination? It's a difficult question. It is a sum total of your conscious mind. And by the way, all these elements I've discussed in other shows on my channels. You can find the topic titles of these other shows where you can unpack some of these. If you want me to unpack them even more, let me know. Send me an email and I will unpack them happily. So imagination is the addition of your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, an amazing resource, your subconscious mind, that I also call your swamp. The influence of your parents, your mentors, the creation of your beliefs, your soul, your spirit, your heart, the past life experiences you've had. And if you don't believe in past lives, I don't care. I do. I've had plenty of spiritual gurus have talked about my past lives. It doesn't matter if you ignore past lives. Plus the collective consciousness of humanity. Now, you are a weirdo. I'm a weirdo. I've done a show on the fact that each one of us is a weirdo. It is a fluke when somebody agrees with us. Each one of us thinks so differently, thinks at a conscious level. And yet when you bring all of these elements together into a unique minestrone soup that is you, and then you tap into collective consciousness and ask God for help, that's when you're starting to access imagination. And as Albert Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Just imagine that. Imagine that. Imagination is more important than knowledge. The way that you access your imagination, your unique minestrone soup, that no one else of the 8 billion people on the planet can do this. That's why AI can't compete with it. Because not only do you have this soup, but you have God as well. You have other spiritual resources available to you. If you don't believe there's any spiritual resources, it doesn't matter anyway, because you've still got the ability of imagination. Whether you believe in these spiritual resources or not, it's like saying, well, I don't believe in gravity. Well, bad luck. It's going to impact on you. Similarly, you have imagination available to you if you choose to use it. And what this show is about is encouraging you, driving you to use it, because your imagination, because it's more important than knowledge, can be used to solve all of your problems. And the more that you use it, the more that it develops, the more powerful it becomes, and the more answers it gives you to solve whatever problems that you have. But like your thinking skills, if you don't use imagination, you won't have easy access to it. It won't be anything like what you're capable of making of it. And that's what this show is about, of course. Constantly, I'm urging you constantly to become all that you are capable of becoming. And imagination is a crucial element to you becoming what you're capable of becoming. And when you're capable of becoming, your capacity is also influenced by your imagination. And then your freedom. Because if you are not free to imagine and to say things aloud because of misinformation and disinformation legislation, or if governments don't like it, bang, you're losing your freedom. There are so many ways that you can lose your freedom. And it's that freedom to be able to let loose what's possible. But if you buy into the government lies of, we'll give you security as long as you give away your freedom, and as long as you give away your imagination, you are doing yourself an enormous disservice. You are doing humanity an enormous disservice, because just one of us with an extraordinary leap of imagination can create amazing solutions. Give you one example on that is James Roguski, who's doing a great amount of work in fighting against the WHO, the World Health Organization, or what I like to call the World Holocaust Organization. James Roguski came out just this week and says, we want peace. There's an imaginative thought. We want peace. And you've also heard me say, when human beings work together, unity is strength. Right now we're in the middle of finals football in Australia, and the grand final is coming up shortly. You know, if teams are not unified, they don't win. If humanity is not unified, we won't win in the fight for freedom, and we won't win in the unleashing of human imagination. So let me show you how this works, how you develop this core skill. Yes, it is a core skill. It's part of being human, and so you have it inherently, like passion. But if you don't pay attention to it, then you don't have access to it. This development of imagination can happen for the rest of your life, forever, till you die. And the more you do this, the less dementia and Alzheimer's problems you will have. There's another element of using imagination, and that is that when you're using imagination, do not listen to anybody who says to you, be realistic, be practical. Those words are anathema to imagination. Be realistic. What does it mean to be realistic? Whose reality are people who say that referring to? Don't be realistic. Your imagination is this amazing gift that is not bound by realism, by being realistic, by being practical. You worry about the implementation later when you've sorted out your problems to go, that's how I'm going to sort this out. Or there's a number of ways I can sort this out. So let me give you a story. This is the true story. This is a story of a group of people, one of whom I work closely with, who are involved in a group court case against a major Australian company who sacked them for refusing to take the jabs. And that was a very wise decision not to take the jabs. but they had no jabs, therefore they had no jobs, and they were peremptorily dismissed from their work. They are therefore suing for unfair dismissal. This is a clearly outrageous breach of the freedom rights of each of these people to be free to choose or not choose a medical intervention, and is also a breach of the Nuremberg Code. And of course, the big company says, we didn't force you to take the jabs, but if you don't take the jabs, you're losing your jobs. That's coercion, it's unlawful, and it's a great court case to run. Now, as I'm talking about this particular court case, don't get caught up in that court case, because I'm dealing with a lot of people who are entitled to legal relief who cannot get it because they haven't got the money. And I think the behaviour of lawyers in Australia, in America, Canada, UK, lawyers' behaviour in the circumstances we've been in over the last 4.5 years is disgraceful. The vast majority of them, they couldn't give a rat's about the injustices, the huge injustices being piled on humanity. I loved being a lawyer. I love the law. The law is such a crucial tool in our armory of weapons to fight against attacks on freedom, but the legal profession who pretend to be interested in human rights totally copped out. Disgraceful, unconscionable, immoral, unethical. I'm disgusted. That's for most of them. Now, many people would take these actions, but they haven't got the financial resources to do so. And this group that I'm helping, and this particular member of this group, has come to me to say, we haven't got enough money. Our lawyers are charging like wounded bulls. We've already put a lot of money in, and they've asked for another 100,000 plus. What do? I'm in despair, said my friend that I'm helping. I said, use your imagination. He said, we need money, not imagination. I said, use your imagination. And here's what you do. You make a decision to use your imagination. You don't stay in your mental state of saying, I need money for lawyers, no matter how rapacious the lawyers are. I need money for lawyers. I haven't got money. I've got a problem. I'm stuffed. No, you're not. You make a decision. I will use imagination. You start by meditating, by getting out of your fear-based thinking out of fear-based thinking and come into heart-based thinking, come to love-based thinking, because fear will restrict your imagination. Love will release your imagination, will enhance your imagination. So here's the broad principle. Write down in handwriting 20 solutions to the particular problem that you're dealing with in your life, and in this case, the situation of getting money for this court case. Getting, in simple terms, 200,000, but probably 500,000 is the sensible amount of money to get. It's an outrageous number, and that's why most people don't get justice, because justice is, there is the truism, that justice only goes to those with the money. And in this particular case, the big company is using every unethical, immoral stunt to increase the legal costs on the applicants in the case, because the big company knows it's done the wrong thing. The big company knows if the matter was properly litigated, it would lose. Just like many medical boards around the world that have suspended doctors unlawfully, unethically, but these medical boards have the financial support of government behind them, and then you've got one or two doctors fighting them. All right, so here is a solution for doctors. Here is a solution for people who've lost jobs. Here's a solution for all sorts of people who need to use the law to get resolution. So this literally took me 5 minutes to come up with these 15 solutions. I said, right, 20. Well, it is my client, my client that I'm advising. It's for him to come up with it. This is how quickly this goes when you go, right, I'm into imagination space. Here is the first 15 ways to get $500,000 for this court case. Number 1, sell your home. This bloke's got a home. Sell it. Rent. Number 2, borrow. Go to your bank and borrow on the home, because this case is being run because the lawyers have said this case has got good prospects of success. But if you don't fight the fight properly, then you've got less good prospects of success. So you sell the home, borrow on the home. Number 3, there are a number of applicants in the case, and you don't have to, this one person who owns a nice home, you don't have to pay the whole cost for all of them. You borrow on your home and you lend money to your colleagues to fund their shares of the case, and then they pay you back from the winnings. Of course, if you lose, there might not be any winnings. That's life. Stop looking for 100% guarantees. And part of this exercise of imagination is to say, how important is this? What is the principle here? One of the questions that I ask my coaching clients is, what would you give your life for? Well, this is a big deal. How important is it? If it's not important enough to get uncomfortable or to lose money on, it's not important. Next, number 4, go public. Do a public appeal. And what happens is people say, oh, it's too hard to do a public appeal. You see, once again, that's about being realistic, about being practical. You use your imagination. You start to go, how would I do a public appeal? What are 20 ways in which I can do a public appeal? In other words, a number of these solutions, there are 20 possible ways to implement one of these 20 steps. Number 5, find an investor. Don't go to large numbers. Find one investor. Go to an investor and say, give me $500,000 and I'll give you back $500,000. I'll give you back your $500,000 plus another. I'll give you 100% return. In other words, give from the court case winnings. Makes total sense. Number 6, go to a litigation funder, and there are many of them around the world. Go to a litigation funder, so you don't have to borrow the money, and it's different to an investor, a litigation funder. And indeed, if the lawyers are being too rapacious, go to a litigation funder. Take off all financial risk. Number 7, identify freedom groups around the world that are interested in this court case, its relevance to whatever those freedom groups are fighting for. Ask for their help to find the funding source. They will have supporters who've got plenty of money. $500,000 in legal. $500,000 is not a lot of money for people with money, and there's a lot of people with money. Number 8, create a media campaign. All right, many times these cases are run without much media. Create a very clever media campaign. Number 9, find a pro bono lawyer. Find a lawyer who will do this work for nothing, who's committed to the cause. There are a tiny proportion of lawyers who are committed to the freedom cause, to the proper preservation of human rights causes. Number 10, terminate the services of lawyers and represent yourselves. The judges hate it when you do this, and it might be a risk, but it might also be a great way to shine a light on the matter, because you can represent yourself. Many people do represent themselves in court. It's not as good as having the best lawyers, but it's better than walking away from the case. Number 11, these 10 people can write 250 individual letters to their friends and acquaintances and ask them each for $200. Personal letter. That would raise $500,000. Next, become a sex worker. sell your body for sex. And, amongst a group of 10, if you're a bloke, you become a gigolo. If you're not, because you go, I'm fighting for my freedom. And here's a question for you. Would you fight for if I had to give sex to someone to get my freedom, I would do it. If I was in jail, I could get out of jail by having sex with somebody, I would do it. Next. Now, it might not be a sex worker. It might be a labourer of some other description. That was number 12. Number 13. Find a professional gambler and say to them, listen, this is like going to a roulette wheel and doubling your money. Have a big gamble here. Or get a couple of your mates, become gamblers on this. Or here's $10,000 you give to the gambler. I want you to turn this into $500,000 to generate our legal fees. Number 14, sell your services forward. These 10 people could each sell their services forward, because we're talking about we want $500,000. That's $50,000 for each person. You say, righto, for the next 5 years, we will each do $10,000 a year of services to somebody, and somebody buys those services, and you get your money up front. Number 15, get an advance from a book publisher. Tell them you're going to do a warts and all book. $500,000 is not a lot of money for a book advance. That's 15. I created those 15 possibilities in about 8 minutes. I could come up with another 15, I promise you. And my promise to you is you can as well. Imagination is more important than knowledge. This is an amazing asset that each one of us has. So in the context of your problems, you can always solve your problems by harnessing imagination, because as Albert Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. So get excited. Unleash your spiritual capability. Tap into all of these spiritual, mental, physical resources that you have, and stop being burdened down by the weight of your problems. And this applies to all of your problems, as I say again. And that's why listening to this show, watching this show, is designed to keep inspiring you to go the next level in unleashing your amazing capability. Resource this week, John Rappaport, John Rappaport, Rappaport, is a wonderful investigative journalist. I've been following his writings for 20 years. He has a wonderful Substack. And it was him that inspired me to do this show. And I'm a paid subscriber to him. And it's he who reminded me of the wonderful resource that is human imagination. So if you want a great Substack, look at John Rappaport. And another resource used to be TNT Radio, TNT News. Now, it has stopped. It stopped this week due to corporate shenanigans, I call them. It will, I'm confident, resurrect in some format. But the show that I presented each week for 2.5 years, the Mind Medicine program, I am going to continue. So that's going to be an interview show. This is a straight to you show, but I am going to be doing an interview program very similar to the Mind Medicine program. That's an interview program closer to an hour long, so I can have decent conversations with people. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I will keep you notified, of course. So I hope today's show, albeit a little bit longer because I got a little bit excited, makes a huge impact on your life, a beneficial impact on your life. A life that I believe is meant to be all that you're capable of making it. If you're new to the show, check the links where you can find the foundational principles and my background, and also links to our websites. Again, thanks for watching or listening. And until our next show, may your week be full of health-giving challenge, fun, imagination, passion, and ever-increasing self-awareness. Have a great week. Enjoy the grand final if you are in Australia. May your team win. I'll be with you next week. Bye for now.